It's the Uprising.
Welcome back. This is the Uprising podcast. I have Mr. Mark Gamba on today. He is the mayor of Milwaukee, Oregon. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Gamba.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Of course. I just wanted to shortly have him on the show. He ran for the 5th District of Oregon in Congress. I just wanted to briefly talk to him about what can we as a Democratic Party do forward with fighting against climate change. And I just wanted to hear his opinion on what the youth can do, the people that are running for Congress that are kind of in my millennial generation. And I kind of wanted to hear a little bit what his life story is like. So again, I appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So why did you get into politics?
Climate change.
Yeah.
I was a National Geographic photographer for years, and I had seen the effects of climate change occurring much earlier, frankly, than predictions had it. We were beginning to see coral reefs bleaching and ice shelves, glaciers receding much faster than most of the models had predicted. Mm-hmm. And I had a pretty good idea of how climate change plays out for the human race and for the rest of the species we share this planet with. So I became greatly concerned that I was not seeing any significant change at the federal level, which is where it's got to happen. But really any significant change anywhere. I wasn't seeing corporations begin to do the things they need to do. It was like everyone had their head in the sand. Mm-hmm. Had we started really taking this seriously 35 years ago when the federal government learned about it, it would have been a pretty simple thing to do. We could have created a carbon tax that slowly ramped up, that was going to be a known factor, and that would have driven the economics. Almost entirely would have solved the problem. Mm-hmm. There may have, we may have needed some other incentivization in there a little bit, but that would have done it. But we didn't. We still, to this date, the federal government hasn't done anything significant to address climate change, and now we're down to less than 10 years. We have 9 years roughly to really make a significant change to significantly reduce the greenhouse gases that we're emitting.
Yeah. So why do you think that both parties and corporations aren't acting on this, how serious this problem is, and the Democratic Party kind of just do tokenism when it comes to this, and the Republican Party just completely don't even think it's real, or other factions know it's real, just don't want to do anything about it? Why do you think that?
It's near as I can tell, and I'm not on the inside, mm-hmm. But near as I can tell, it's about money. It's about corporate power and wealth. The Republican Party is completely sold out to the corporations, and the Democratic Party is 95% sold out to the corporations. Yeah. So some of the biggest corporate donors, the guy I ran against, Kurt Schrader, is a Democrat, Blue Dog Democrat, and one of his biggest donors is the fossil fuel industry. Yeah. As a percentage of his donations, it was something like 30% of what he brought in. Yeah. And they are trying to play this out as long as they can. They see the writing on the wall. They know that that they're going to have to stop producing coal and petroleum and natural gas, for that matter. But they want to maximize their profits before they do that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because the people at the top, you get such a level of privilege that you believe that anything you ever want, you can pay for.
Mm-hmm.
If you're rich enough and white enough,
Yeah.
right, there's nothing that you can't have. So I think they believe that no matter how bad things get for everyone else, that they will always be able to survive. Their children will be able to survive. I don't know what they imagine that's going to look like. Giant plexiglass bubbles where they grow their own food and have armed guards to protect them. I'm not entirely clear, but it's that self-delusion that comes with power.
Yeah.
I think is really the answer.
Yeah. And I worry about, like, have you ever seen that movie Elysium that starred Matt Damon?
Boy, it sounds like I might have, but it's going to have been long enough ago that I don't really
Yes.
remember it.
So kind of the premise of the movie was the elites, the wealthy, kind of live on this like little spaceship in like outwards of Earth,
Right.
and they kind of leave everyone else to our own devices. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, but I worry that some of the people that know this is going on and just don't want to do anything about it, like Mars or other things like that, I worry that might be their plans in the future. And
It could well be, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a science fiction, but I think that I worry that we're even too far gone in certain degrees to even save anything. But I think if we do, like you're saying, if we do have a structural as a planet difference, then maybe we can save our planet. It's just people just had to make, corporations and a lot of people just have to make a lot of big sacrifices to save this planet, because we don't have any real other options, really, in my opinion.
Well, frankly, I've been doing some reading about, the way people think and how they think and the economics of it all. And really, if we pass something like the Green New Deal, right, where we're putting millions of people to work with like good family wage union type jobs, right, $25 an hour, $30 an hour, doing all the things that we need to do. We can physically do that. That is not a thing that's impossible to do. We've just shown that we're, as a country, we can dole out trillions of dollars to solve a problem when there's a problem, right? So we know we can do that. We've done it every time we've launched a war. We just did it with the pandemic. We know that that's something we can do. There is no greater threat that has ever faced Americans or anybody else for that matter than climate change. So we could literally take the money, we could put millions of people to work, we could do all the things we need to do, electrify our transportation system, transform our agricultural system, transform the way we utilize forest lands, shift all of our energy production to electric, all those things. We could spend the next 10 years putting everybody to work doing that. And then strangely, all of a sudden, the shitty jobs that are out there that people take because they can't get another job that pay $10 an hour or $12 an hour, nobody's going to be able to hire anybody to do those jobs because they're going to be able to go get a job at $30 an hour building windmills or whatever it is. So all of a sudden, wages are going to have to go up for everything. And the only people that will have less than they have now, will have less of a percentage of income, are the very, very wealthy. The thing is, they're not going to have to change their lifestyle. They have so much money now that you could literally take, think about a billionaire, right? Some of these guys, $85 billion, right? You could take 90% of their wealth and it wouldn't even affect their lifestyle. They can live exactly as luxuriously as they live right now today. And we would have trillions and trillions of dollars to work with to solve these problems. So there isn't any actual sacrifice. There's a perceived sacrifice, right? Because there's this competition to be the richest man in the world. Or I really don't know what drives people at that level.
I don't understand it.
they would not have to actually sacrifice. It would, you know, they're not going to have to not live in their mansions or not have their 3 yachts or their 2, you know, jets or, you know, all the things that they have. They don't even have to not have that. Because when you are talking about that kind of money, so.
Yeah, it's so much obscene wealth, and just the wealth disparity is just getting larger and larger with the pandemic and everything else.
Yep.
And I've been really frustrated with this the whole government, as not just the Trump administration, everyone just kind of acting like we're not in probably the worst economic crisis this country's ever seen. And we have the climate. We have so many things that need so much action, and not enough people are doing anything about it. And I appreciate you bringing these issues up, and leaders like you and leaders like Bernie Sanders and AOC and people that really want to change this country and help save our planet as well. And I hope a lot more people that have that people first, not them, get elected more. So my generation, more people, I'm a 29, so I'm technically a millennial, and more people my age or a little younger, a little older are running. What type of advice would you give them running for office?
Yeah. Here's what I hope happens. I hope that young people will start running for their local city council and their local school boards and their county commissions, that's harder, right? Because those races are easier to win, particularly in smaller cities, right? It's not that hard to win a city council seat in a city of 20,000 people.
Yeah.
But that's the pipeline, right? We need to start getting progressives that actually give a shit about people in the pipeline. The system, the way the system is designed right now, it is designed literally so that the predominance of people and all levels of power in all levels of government will be old, rich, white men.
Yeah.
That is the way it is set up. It is, I mean, and it's every single rule. It's rules about campaign finance. It's rules about, when I running for Congress, I kept running into these issues that were things that were going to be really hard for me to deal with because we were raising our funds purely from donations from people. We didn't have $10 million in the bank of corporate cash.
Yeah.
So there were all these hoops that you had to jump through. That you had to hire an expert that was going to charge you $5,000 a month to do that work for you. Those are barriers, right?
Yeah.
So we need to get more people at more levels of government, state government, county government, city government, that actually give a shit and that are there for the right reasons and that aren't old, rich, white people that understand what everyday life is for people. So as far as advice, I mean, it's great. I love watching. I was part of the slate with Brand New Congress, and I was definitely the old man in that group. I think I was the only old white man.
That's good though.
Yes, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It was all younger people. It was predominantly people of color. It was a lot of women. It was perfect. I mean, it was really what we want to see.
Yeah.
That's great. How many of us get elected is the question.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm suggesting, yes, go for that. Absolutely, we should be running for those seats. We need people. We need organizations like the Brand New Congress and Justice Democrats, but we need them to be more robust, right? We need them to have more money to be able to throw at this, to be able to help us hire staff, to help us find staff, to help us find advisors. Because those were the difficulties for running a campaign like that. But if you're running at the city council level, which then sets you up, right? It starts you on a trajectory so that maybe you're 22, you run for city council, you do that for 3 or 4 years, and then you are the mayor, and then you are the county commissioner. You create that trajectory. You're now talking about somebody getting in at a much easier level to run. So I'm not saying don't run for Congress. I'm just saying yes and. Yes, and also run for the easier offices to run for.
Yeah, which is kind of a part of what I'm doing. I'm trying to get as many people on the show as possible. I interviewed someone that's going to be running for city council, and I'm trying to get anyone that has progressive ideology. I want on the show to give them a platform, because I think that especially bigger progressive networks, they kind of go for the bigger dogs, the more profiled progressives that are running, and like kind of the littler people kind of get forgotten in a way, which I'm not blaming them, because when they have they have to have a certain amount of views and everything like that. So that's kind of one of the missions of what I'm doing, is giving people that normally wouldn't be on a bigger platform a voice, because I think that the left has kind of been spoiled by Bernie Sanders' success in a way, and I feel like we kind of got ahead of ourselves in a way, thinking that we're going to take the whole country over, when it was so many boundaries and roadblocks that we have.
Yeah.
Like the Libertarian Party in the 60s with Barry Goldwater, like he ran, then he built everything, then they got Ronald Reagan and completely changed politics. Now I think possibly Bernie Sanders might be our version of Barry Goldwater. He might be the spark, and we might get a Ronald Reagan one day to change this country back to what we used to be, with the FDR policies and stronger unions, higher tax rates, and just a more balanced society, which is what I'm fighting for.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Briefly, so I watched the Tom Hartman interview you did. I'm a big fan. I think he needs to get a lot more credit for putting the left on the map. He interviewed Bernie Sanders every week for years, and Bernie Sanders ascended to where he was. And I'm a big fan of Tom Hartman. And so one of the things you talked about was how your city was a red state, and you kind of turned it into a blue city. And how did you do that? Because I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're about one of the reddest states in the whole country, and one of the reddest cities in the whole country. So what would your advice be when it comes to that?
So here's what I think is the truth. I think that the big divide is not really a red-blue divide.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an up-down divide, right? It's a 1% and everybody else divide.
Yeah.
I think most of the things that affect everyday folks, right, the voters, affect them whether they're Democrats or Republicans. It affects them, you know, and they care predominantly about the same things. They care about putting food on the table. They care about paying their bills. They care about, you know, their mom's cancer, right? That they want the best possible care for her. You know, it's all of that kind of stuff. That is universal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can speak to that, if you can speak to people's everyday actual issues,
mm-hmm.
and when you have to talk about the hot button issues that have been manufactured,
Mm-hmm.
right, to be divisive, right? What inherently about saving the planet we live on is a progressive ideal or a democratic ideal?
Yeah.
You know, the people who are deniers, who believe that that's not a problem, have been told that that's not a problem. They've been taught that that's not a problem. And not only have they been taught that that's not a problem, they've been taught that the bad people who want to take their whatever are using that to take it. So if you can stay away from the hot button words and talk about really down to earth issues and how we start to solve those issues, probably I'm guessing most city councils are nonpartisan positions. You don't have to say whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. You're just running on issues, I assume. So do that, you know, just run on the issues and talk about making things better for your community. That's what I did, and won pretty easily. But like I said, small towns, it's easier to win and get in, and then you can start to sort of work your way up, particularly a small town that's a suburb of a bigger metropolitan region, because then you can start to engage at the metro level in whatever organizations and have a bigger impact.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have anything else to say?
That's a silly question to ask a politician.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. You have anything that a website that you can plug to anything like that?
Well, I still have my congressional website up. It's markgamba.com. It's got my policy directions. I'm intending to run again in 22.
Okay.
The question here in Oregon is, which district will I be running in? Because we should be getting a new congressional district, and depending on how those boundaries are drawn, I could be in the 5th again. I could be in the 3rd. I could be in the new 6th. God knows.
Okay, man. Sir, I really appreciate your time, and really appreciate you coming on the show.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Uprising.